right, so this is scary because I'm the host tonight, and so I forget that I'm the one that has to press all the buttons and do everything, and that's that's a scary place to be sometimes.
Just all hit the big red button and we're all good.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of buttons in here. I don't know. Anyway, good evening, welcome. It's Sidebar, and it's sort of a diet sidebar tonight. Well, There's nothing about me that says diet, but there's just three of us tonight. It's myself, me, Michael Groff. There's Ashley, and there is Austin right there. And tonight we're talking about what are we talking about? We're talking about
how much rehabilitation is enough.
Yes.
Parole for violent crimes.
So for violent crimes, there's rehabilitation. How much is enough? When do we? And there's a lot of ways we can go with this topic. Yes. It's not. I mean, we could talk violent crimes. We'll probably expand into other areas. We'll probably wind up talking about food or our favorite TV shows or whatever, because it's Sidebar. That's just what we do here. If you're brand new to the show, this is a law tube show or law tube adjacent show, but oftentimes it just becomes we just talk about whatever, because that's just kind of how it is when you do these things.
Yeah.
But I guess what was the impetus for this particular topic? Because we have so many different cases that we watch, and I'm trying to remember what was the genesis for this one.
Well, apparently this is from the parole hearing, of course.
Yep.
And this guy had a brutal crime, and I'm not exactly sure what the extent to the brutality. I can't remember that part, but he did everything right while he was in prison. He crossed all the T's off, and then there was strong victim impact statements in this one as well.
Okay.
And there was I think the victim impact is the strongest opposition they had. I don't think they had, let me see. They had
So this was
I
a
think
situation.
it was just pretty much a victim impact thing. Yeah, it was just victim impact. But because of the brutality of said crime, even though he did everything right, the parole board still didn't allow him on parole. They kept him. They denied his parole. In a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. We see that a lot from the parole board. This is one of those things. So again, if you're somebody that's kind of new to TCF, one of the places that we like to go during the live show, Monday through Friday, is to the Louisiana Board of Pardons and Paroles. And in this case, a lot of times these, would-be parolees, they, in order to get parole, in order to satisfy some of the board's requirements, even though they're not set in stone, but one thing they like to see is people take all these classes. Mm-hmm. If you're in there for example, for drugs, they want to see you take all the different drug courses so that you can get on the right path there, or theft, all the theft courses, and there's like moral, different morality or cognitive or all these different sort of courses that you can take.
The victim impact.
Oh yeah,
those that seems to be a big one.
Particular one. He took Thinking for a Change, AA, Victim Awareness. There was like a few of them that he took. He was also a trustee since 2014, trustee status.
Okay.
And he had 16 years at the same job. And the staff, and he had staff and community advocates for him too.
Yep.
Oh,
So
okay. So I do remember this. So yeah, he actually had a lot of people kind of backing him. I was actually surprised at. I was actually surprised because, I mean, law enforcement is almost always opposed to these cases. DAs are almost always opposed, and that's that often does not work in your favor with the parole board. But in this case, he had the parole project. I mean, all these different people were kind of backing him. And I actually kind of thought that was one of those cases that started out, it sounded like it was going in the right direction and that he was going to get paroled and then didn't.
That's kind of what I thought as well. Where
and it was weird.
It was looking like it was going to.
So many times on this show, we talk about what is the purpose of being incarcerated. Is the primary purpose just punishment? Is it for rehabilitation? Is it to serve for the safety of the community? Is it to make sure that there's a deterrence? Is it a little mix of all of the above? Well, if rehabilitation, if some sort of penance, if you will, for what was done, if all of that is why we incarcerate people, then one has to ask, if you do all the classes that are offered, all the possible rehabilitation steps you can take, including AA and all these other things.
Yeah.
And if you become a mentor to other people, and if you're even in the trustee program and you're working while you're incarcerated, really what else is there for you to do but serve the rest of your time? And if you've already served almost up to your good time release date and you're eligible for parole, and it seems like you've turned things around, what else is there?
Yep.
So at that point,
this seemed to be, sorry, Michael, go ahead.
No, my question was just going to be, so at what point do we say, okay, you've done enough, you have been rehabilitated, get out of here. Let's let you out into the world.
Yep.
Right.
This seemed to be that, to me anyway. I got the impression that the good behavior part of that was there, the rehab part of that was there, but the fact that they wanted him to serve more of his time was not there. So it kind of felt like it left the offender rehabilitation and became more about the punishment in this case.
Yeah,
that's what I got out of that one.
That makes sense. So you're saying he didn't serve enough time, and that's why they just wanted him to get the. That's
kind of what it seemed like, because on paper he had all of the rehabilitations, all of the victim impacts and everything, but it just seemed like that wasn't enough for this case.
I think also what shot him in the foot, so to speak, was no pun intended there. This was a manslaughter case. I did not mean to make a joke. This was like I said, a manslaughter case, but he was a habitual offender as well.
Yep, and so I think that kind of brought in more about
him
it
too.
Well, okay, and I certainly get that, and I think I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here because, but if you're going to have a parole, if you're going to have a parole date, and somebody has done everything else that they can do, and you're still not going to release that person, then why would they bother to even put a parole date in if someone can meet all those criteria and still not be let out because, well, yeah, you did all this stuff. And at that point, why are we keeping that person in prison other than just for the sole purpose of just further punishment? I mean, and is that going to ultimately help that person? Or is it going to, when they are eventually released, or is it going to just ensure that they might reoffend again? Because prison is not a fun place to be.
Yeah.
But But you
Yeah.
can be rehabilitated, for a lot of crimes, certain crimes, not so much. But, in this case, I think you can be. It's possible. So, but if you've done everything else you can do and now you're just in prison, hopefully he continues to mentor other people and hopefully continues to work and hopefully, does all these other things. But you got to feel like the air is let out of your balloon a little bit when you've really tried to make that effort and you've tried to turn that corner
Yeah.
and then you're just told no.
Yep.
And you have all the support too, right? And
Right, and that's the
All
other
the
thing.
support, all the
Yeah.
good behavior.
And all that support.
even
is,
the
put to
parole
wayside
project.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these people are behind you, and then you just sort of feel like, well, what was it for? What was the purpose? Was it all for
Right.
naught?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, there's a lot of things we can discuss, but usually habitual offender statuses don't usually get parole. So that's why I was surprised he even got parole in the first place, just because of
Yeah.
what habitual offender means. Because people don't. They've tried probably to go through oh my gosh, can't speak tonight. Rehabilitation before, and
Yeah.
they didn't succeed, and now they're back at the same jam, So,
Well, and certainly there's an argument to be made, and I don't remember. Well, I don't claim to know the laws in every state. I know sentence enhancements are such that, for example, in Arizona, the sentence enhancements sort of double or they take the punishment range up a step. So, like, for example, if it's a Class 2 felony in Arizona, it's a 7. You face 7 to 21 years. But if you're, I believe, a repeat offender, it could be 14 to 28 years. And if you're like a habitual, it could be 21 to 35 years or something. So
Okay.
it kind of goes up. Each one kind of steps up, by, a factor. It sort of doubles the initial punishment range. So, in Texas, I know, you can, your minimums go from, like, on a first degree can go from 5 to 99 up to a minimum of 10 or a minimum of 25 years or something like that. And so parole usually, depending on if a deadly weapon was used or if there's different stipulations, there's different things that determine how much time has to pass before you're even eligible. I don't know how Louisiana works, admittedly, but
I have no idea.
But you probably have to at least serve a pretty big amount of time as a habitual. But that said, and again, I'm not saying I agree with it. This isn't one of those things where, suddenly I'm all for just letting habitual offenders out. I'm just asking the question that if we're going to have a parole date, kind of what's the point if you have done what you are supposed to do, quote unquote, and you've been a so-called model prisoner, and if you've done everything by the book, what would be the point? What's the incentive there? Why even dangle the carrot in front of someone if they're like, okay, I've done what you've told me to do, and now you're saying, yeah, but you got to sit a little longer.
Yep.
Right. Exactly.
So I just looked up the Louisiana habitual offenders. So they have a 3-strike style law where second, third, fourth can time offenses can result in 50% to 100% of the maximum sentence, sometimes life without parole. For a second degree felon or for a second felony, the sentence is generally at least 1/3 of the maximum, up to 2/3, up to twice the maximum. Okay, that's a really weird way to word.
I think I get what they're saying there, but yeah, that's It's a weird way to put it, but yeah. So
I feel, I don't know how many times, like going back to your point, Michael, about what's even the point of parole.
Yep.
That victim opposition, though, has really made the largest impact that I've seen hearing these parole hearings. Why they're denied. That victim opposition carries so much weight in these that I don't think it's just that he's a habitual offender and things like that. That those victims, that strong opposition carries so much weight, and that's why he's like locked in there by them in a way.
Yep.
Well, and I get that. I certainly understand. And we've talked about the weight of victim impact statements and how much they should carry. And, it obviously, this is a different setup than a courtroom. Parole boards don't necessarily have to play by the same rule book. We actually had quite a discussion about that in the chat today. Because
that was
someone,
an interesting one.
Yeah, someone was found not guilty while they're on parole, but they got revoked anyway because, they made some choices to be around people that probably they shouldn't have been. And there was a gun in a car, even though it was testified to and seems to have been proven that it wasn't their gun, and they were found not guilty. The parole board's like, we don't care. You're revoked. This is another situation where they can weigh the evidence however they want to hear it. They have a lot of latitude. They pretty much operate autonomously from the law, essentially. They sort of make their own rules, and there is an inconsistency. And look, we love the parole board for a lot of reasons. It's great content, and we love the fact that they keep everything posted and they're very transparent in how they operate. But sometimes there's this inconsistency where they weigh different factors differently. And I guess I wish I understood a little bit better what was going through their minds, but
and it's like, as soon as we think we get close to figuring it out, it changes to something like what happened with today's, where even though he was found not guilty and everything, versus something where we do have the habitual offender, where the ones who maybe have a couple issues and they get denied, versus something like today, or the one where he had no issues and everything was done properly.
Right. And Great Granny said something interesting too. She said that they legally go up for parole every 10 years in that state, I believe. So being a habitual offender doesn't come into play until you face the board.
So it's procedural that they go up.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
And I was kind of wondering if that's what it was, if it was something procedural where they go up that early.
Yeah. And obviously, look, I'm not saying, hey, let's let out the habitual offenders and all this.
No, I'm not either.
Me either.
But I will say there are times where I feel like somebody can turn the corner, and I just wonder. I just wonder why even dangle the carrot on the stick in the first place then. I mean, that's kind of like...
Kind of gives them the... and I've seen cases where they've done everything right like this, have a ruling like this where they get denied after doing everything right, and they get so frustrated to go and do something dumb behind bars, and then you're not getting out at that point.
Right. Well, because they figure, well, I've got a few more years and it's my mandatory release anyway, so who gives a damn?
Yep.
If you're not going to let me out, I might as well just make it miserable for everybody else in here. And it leads to this sort of, it institutionalizes people and
behavior. It supports bad behavior in a way.
And I don't know. I really, we've talked about this on Sidebar many times, you know, as much as I can certainly be, I do feel that sometimes certain crimes need to be punished very, very harshly. At the same time, I think that we have too many laws and too many people in prison that probably shouldn't be.
Right.
And too many people that are in prison for too long, some people not long enough. And we have to kind of figure out what we're doing here.
Yeah.
You know, if rehabilitation is really our goal, especially for certain kinds of crimes, then we really ought to emphasize the importance of doing that and making sure that that can be done. And if that is done, then we give that person an opportunity, or at least, you know, the other thing that we've talked about too here many times is why not release them early? Why not grant them that parole? Because here's what you still can do is you can put a lot of supervision conditions on them, like GPS monitoring, or, you know, you can
Constant
still,
check-ins,
or, you know, in certain drug cases, you can release them to sort of a, inpatient or outpatient sort of care. There's all sorts of things you can do. Whereas oftentimes once they make their parole, once they're out, they're just out.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't understand that either.
Yeah.
Like,
So
They should have
nothing.
some sort of supervised thing about it. I for some length of time, right? I don't think it's good for anyone to let them out cold turkey like that. Especially back into society where if these long-time parolees have been incarcerated for so long, it's hard for them to fit back into where everybody else is, right? They need support, and I
Right.
know the parole takes that into account, but they also need that accountability as well. And I think
Yeah.
law enforcement could come into play there, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, and that's why I'm so in favor of, if they're close to their date anyway, if they're a couple of years away, yeah, you let them out early, because then you have that supervisory control, and you can see if they're going to behave themselves. And look, there are repeat offenders, but if the goal is to cut that down, and we're doing what we can, and we can have them supervised, and we can still offer them some programs outside, and keep them on the straight and narrow, depending on the kind of crime they've committed, then why not? Look, if it's for a crime of you know, child stuff, or for, you know, certain kinds of assaultive behavior on somebody, obviously that's stuff we've talked about before. They can't be rehabilitated. I mean, keep them in for the full term. But you know,
nonviolent other crimes,
but nonviolent, and again, even certain kinds of violent crimes, crimes of passion, I think, are more able to be rehabilitated.
right?
You know,
than, like hate crimes.
Well, yeah, that's just something that's, I think, baked into people, and that's one of those things I don't think you're ever going to rehabilitate.
Right? So he accidentally killed somebody unintentionally.
It would be different if he had the intent to actually do the crime.
Right.
Yeah,
manslaughter usually is reckless but not premeditated. There's sort of a fine line between second-degree murder and then manslaughter. There's, of course, involuntary manslaughter. There's vehicular. There's, you know, there's all sorts of, there's different layers of manslaughter. But, and, you know, we've seen this with drunk drivers. You know, a lot of times there's people that get paroled because they have done what they can, and it looks like they've turned it around, and, you know, similar circumstances, somebody died, but they get released because and look, sometimes it's just about being articulate or catching the board at the right time, or the right people on the board. You know, you talk to Miss Ledoux about Jesus, and you're probably in good shape. And sometimes that's what these guys do is they've learned how to work that system. And I don't know, there's all sorts of different, it's a game, unfortunately, more than it probably should be.
A lot of them have been in front of the board countless number of times and know that board by heart. So I'm not surprised either, Mike.
Yep.
That's a good
Kind
point.
of seemed like the guy today. It seemed like he knew Chuck.
Yeah, Mr. Tillis.
Mr. Tillis, yeah, because he was talking a lot less. He was talking more formal with the other two, but he was wanting to talk directly to Mr. Tillis today.
Well, and he kept pounding on the table, and it just was doing that. And and I'll tell you, that's probably not a way to ingratiate yourself to the parole board.
No,
probably not a way to. Yeah, probably not a. Yeah,
that's your first of 3 strikes for that hearing.
Yeah, I mean that's for sure it is. For sure it is. We saw a lot of weird stuff today. I was able to, I was busy working today. I wasn't out and about, so I was able to watch pretty intently today. And obviously the parole board, but I mean, we saw a lot of strange things today. Lazy lawyers, maybe lazy lawyers ought to be another topic on here, because boy, did we see that in spades today over there in Judge DeSanto's court.
Oh my gosh. I wanted to go and shake the dude. Like, why can't you do your job?
I kind of wanted to shake them all. Like this, the defense attorney is like, well, I thought I sent another a follow-up for, Judge Mom is sitting there going, Counsel, when did you follow up with opposing counsel? And so I'm like, he's like, well, Judge, let me look through here, Judge. So like,
and names one.
Must have been
the date that we met last.
Counsel.
Yep.
Counsel. I thought it was after the 22nd of January. When did you do that? And as to bond.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Judge, I believe I sent something. I'm not totally sure. I'm wigging out right now, Judge. And then the other guy, Mohammed's sitting there, and he has no idea. He's like, well, Judge, I could go upstairs, but I don't know. There's 16 steps, and I'm kind of tired, so maybe I'll do it tomorrow or something. And Counsel, go up the stairs right now. I'm like what's going on? What is going on today? First we have some guy that's like, well, I took this. He sets down an entire book. Here's all of the classes I took. I took all the classes. What else could I take? I've done everything. I sacrificed a goat to my dark lord. I've done everything I can do. And they're like, well, it seems you've done everything you can do, but I just don't really trust you very much. And quite frankly, I don't like the way you pounding on the table. So I'm going to this time. Mr. Tillis, though, what do you think? This time I'm just going to have to vote. I'll say no. And I'm going to say no. You didn't mention Jesus, so I'm saying no. It's denied. So they were so mad. I don't know. The parole board is always fun.
They usually log off extremely quick, but that one they logged off extra quick.
They were.
And I was gonna go off on the
from our next impression, Jesse Owens.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, what is going? Don't y'all know how this works and what you're supposed to do before you approach the judge? I think you're supposed to know that, but it sounds like you have no clue what's going on.
Yeah. This
illegal.
Austin. I mean, this has got to be something where I just sort of wonder if there's a more objective way that we could approach this? We could maybe have something where they just have a checklist, and if they check off all the boxes in this list, it sort of cuts down on the discretion from the board, and it gives them a more objective sort of scoreboard that they go through, and they say, okay, if you've met all of these criteria and we can just check them off one right after the other, then you get out. And that's that.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
to
it would
me.
even be good for doing it like that to get out, but have some sort of afterwards, have some sort of oversight to keep you out of trouble. Like we were just saying, where somebody's still watching you, but yet you're on the outside. Just get rid of that first step, or do it in a quote unquote blind way.
Yeah.
And I understand he was a habitual offender and everything, right? But should that really follow you after you get sentenced? And that's something I have had in the back of my mind too. I mean, I get it because history repeats itself, right?
Habitual offender, yeah. I mean, obviously, it plays into your sentencing. Yep. I suppose it matters. It also matters what kind of crime you're a habitual offender for. Or, sometimes people are habitual, but they're not habitual for the same kind of crime, but rather for just crime in general.
Yeah, different crimes.
So, someone that's a thief, but suddenly is, gets convicted of drugs, but not theft, but they're habitual. Yeah. Or they assaulted somebody or whatever. I mean, it's different. So, this is one of those where it's hard to find look, we're not going to come up with a solution as is usual for Sidebar. That's not what we're here to do. We're never going to solve this, but I really do think that some sort of just checklist where we can just and a scoring system
maybe.
Yep.
And if law enforcement if they're just opposed and that's your basis, then why even bother to have the hearing? Just go to the law enforcement and be like, hey, you guys approve? Nope. All right. Well, we're just going to leave them in there. Because it just seems like I think I've only seen it once or twice where law enforcement and DAs have been opposed and they're just like, nah, screw that. We're going to let them out anyway.
I think we've had one.
Or victims being opposed and them letting them out. That's rare too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've seen that where sometimes the victim's like, hey, I'm fine with letting him out. We saw that the other day. In fact, I think one of them was like, no, I'm actually fine with it. Just don't want to have any contact with him. Yep. And when that happens, I think that, and again, that's been a topic here on Sidebar before, is about the weight of victim impact.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that since they are the victim, they should get to have a big say in what goes on.
And that's what happened here.
And it should be weighed. It shouldn't be like the board's lowest thing they have to weigh in on, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, oftentimes, of course, victims or their families are going to be opposed anyway. Yeah. And sometimes that's just one of those things that you have to expect, too. It can't be the only determining factor. So that's why I'm thinking, too. Yeah, that's why I support the checklist.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like if they check off all the boxes and the victims are still opposed and they have checked them all off, perhaps you still let them out.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe on
give them a shot.
But like supervision or something, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, the supervised part I think is really important too for some of these cases. Or if you have drug cases, continued classes, AA or NA or whatever. And I think, look, again, if the purpose is rehabilitation, then let's continue the rehabilitation. Let's try to get these people back and as functioning members of society.
Yeah.
Who would really be against that if that's your goal? Now, if your goal is, hey, I just want them in prison because I want these bastards to suffer, well, then that's fine. But let's be honest about it. Let's let's take off the disguise here and let's just have a real honest conversation about it. And that's fine. I mean, some people, that's what they want. They want people to be punished for what they did. And hey, we've all felt that way about certain cases. Barbara's got her wood chipper for certain kinds of crimes. We've all got our, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, there's a certain honesty that just has to be there.
The system. Yep. I agree with that.
So you see, maybe we did kind of solve this a little bit, or at least we came up with something that would help. Maybe not a solution.
I like the supervision thing. I really do. I know it's maybe more of a headache because once they get out, like you're kind of on your own, and they like to wash their hands clean of that, and they have other things to do. Yep. But at the same time, it's only going to be for a limited time, and I think it would really help keep that person on the straight and narrow and catch them before they maybe get back in front of the parole again and be put back in jail.
Well, if they're having to check in,
commit another crime is what I'm saying.
Right. If they're having to check in, if they're being held accountable by somebody, if they're still taking these courses, or if they're still learning the steps, and if they do have a family that seems to give a damn, and they have a support system, I think everything is in place for them to get back into society and sort of reacclimate to society and conform back into it.
It doesn't make sense to put them back in. Like to keep them in prison at that point.
Well, it's only going to hurt them because they're around other people, obviously other cons, and one of the conditions that they usually have when they let people out, at least for a while, is hey, you can't associate with other people that are that have been put in prison.
Yeah.
And so then why would you want to put them back into prison with the people that you don't want them around anyway, if you really feel that they can be rehabilitated? And of course, again, this goes back to the conversation of some people can't be, but if you feel like they can be, wouldn't it be best to have them out?
Yep. Get them out to where they can have a spot again where they don't have that pressure of it being with the people who are convicted.
Yeah, and that family dynamic piece that Michael said about having family back you up when you do get out, that makes a whole lot of difference there.
Oh, yeah.
You have somebody to fall back on if you are thinking about doing something stupid, or you have family to fall back on if you are in financial trouble. Things of that nature. I know how hard it is for some offenders to get jobs back when they get out into society. So that family is going to take care of, or do their best to take care of them. And in a way, it's kind of like a dependent, but it's good. I feel like it's needed. I think that family support is there.
It definitely does
the
help.
more chance it's going to go well.
Yep. And even when they don't have family, they have like the organizations that are often there with the parole at the parole board, the Parole Project.
Yeah.
There's usually an equivalent to that in every state. And if they don't have family, then they have an organization that will hopefully help them and help them get.
Isn't that what that project people do? Whatever.
The Innocence Project? Is that what you're thinking of?
I think so. Yeah.
So that they work on if somebody has been found guilty and put in prison, and it has come to light that there was either an issue with the case or like if DNA testing is available and they've been tested privately and it has shown, they help that offender at that point, or that person at that point.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that. I know
Yep.
we have the Parole Project too that helps out as well.
Yep.
With the people getting
That's
out too.
like a state level program, where the
Yeah.
Innocence Project is a national program.
I think that's a good idea, though. I wish we had like things like the Parole Project in more
those.
states, because
Yep.
I don't know. That's pretty useful too for these people.
Well, I know they have similar programs in some areas.
Yep.
And I think that's great too. And I think when people start, and a lot of times that requires the inmate to take the initiative and get involved in that sort of thing. And that's a sign when someone is taking an active role in their own rehabilitation. I think that's when it really is a genuine thing more than anything else. You know, if they're just doing it because they've been told to do it, and so they're doing it that way, that's not exactly the same thing. But oftentimes they reach out to these different kinds of parole projects, or and then they initiate their own, just like they talk about the therapeutic community, you know, Judge Boyd in Texas, and you know, these people will try to get into that themselves, and that's how you know that somebody at least is trying to get the help. Now, I'm not saying they're always going to be successful, but at least if you're making that effort, it does show something. And if I was on a board, that would show to me that, hey, this person is really trying to make the effort.
Yeah.
So that should be taken under advisement at the very least.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, Michael, because something popped in my head when you were saying that even if they check themselves into some place and they miss a court hearing, the judge is more likely to forgive that missed court hearing because they checked themselves in someplace. And it means a whole lot there. Because they took that initiative.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Ray Granny says the majority of criminals that successfully jump through all the hoops the parole board but are denied parole usually are the ones that have mentorship roles within the prison free labor, which is an interesting point too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we've seen one of those on the Louisiana Parole Project, where he basically was like the top inmate for the prison and had people in all the he knows everybody is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I know which one you're talking about, Austin. It
like
was
a week ago, I think.
Yeah, it was one of the like top people of the parole, like of the trustees or something. And
trustees, thank you.
Yeah. And they knew all the ropes, they knew everybody, and they were trying to become a positive influence. I think he got out. I can't recall.
No, this particular one, they said he's doing such a good job on the inside. Why would you change that? Is what Mr. Tillis's comment to the inmate. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was very bizarre.
That's weird.
Yeah, I didn't get that one.
That sort of goes to my argument against private prisons. It's like, well, privatized prisons, the goal is kind of, I mean, it's sort of, it's more of an incentive to keep people in than to let them out. Yep. Anytime you have a profit motive, or, you have some sort of, cheap source of labor, I don't know if it's necessarily in the best interest of society to keep people in, but it's in the best interest of that private prison or whatever. So, yeah.
And he's a trustee too. The case that we're talking about tonight. So
yes.
Yep.
Interesting. Is there some kind of
yeah, this one was
going
actually
on with trustees?
I don't want to say it was interesting, but it was interesting. because he was one of his main jobs, the one we're talking about tonight, was stamping the license plates.
Oh, yeah.
I had no clue that they still did that.
I didn't either.
I thought that had been, yeah.
Totally automated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or at least taken over by the state.
Well, it sort of is, I guess. I mean, you know, they
This in a back way
Very
of
true,
doing it.
Michael.
they
But yeah.
Very
contract that out, and you know and they're like, oh, we got a great source of labor to do that.
Yep. I did not think of that.
Yeah, we got the prison labor, but it's like, why would you need to keep someone in to keep that? Because there's so many people that are going into prison because this is the U.S.
Yep.
and we have no shortage of prisoners. It's not like you have to keep someone in to keep that labor going. They'll go out and you've got another person coming right on in. It's like, you know, it's like McDonald's. There's always going to be employees to work there. Because, you know, there's always going to be teenagers or 20s or people that are near retirement age that want a little extra income and they still want to work and do something, but not necessarily whatever the case, the motivation. You know, there's people that want to go and do all that. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and Nina says, definitely don't think privatizing prisons is a good idea. I don't think so either.
No, definitely not.
I know we've proposed that for the topics here, and eventually that'll be something that we probably get into in more depth, I'm sure. But I don't think there's anybody that's on our regular panel here that would favor the privatization of prisons. I mean, it's one thing to be a capitalist. It's another. Yeah, that's one of those things, though, that
profit off of that. Yes.
Because when you privatize prisons, what do you need in order to keep the money coming in? Well, you need prisoners, and if you have a lot of rehabilitation, and if you have a lower recidivism rate, well, that's going to cut into those profits in the bottom line.
Yeah.
So it sort of leads to, if you want to make sure that the system looks as corrupt as possible, have more privatized prisons. And people always say, Mike, that's a cynical way to look at it. That's not how it works.
No, that's, yep.
Yeah. And it's like, well, you know, people like me come up with that theory, we don't just pull that out of thin air. That's not just something that we make up. I mean, there's obviously a reason to feel that way. And if I, sitting here in a studio, come up with that idea, obviously people that want to make that money, that have that profit-driven motive behind them, somebody's going to think that and be like, yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. Of course, they're never going to say, well, I shouldn't say never, because sometimes they do say the quiet part out loud, but for the most part, they don't want to say that out loud, but that's what goes on.
Yep.
So,
or they bury it in small text, like at the very back of the contract.
Yes, we actually are very evil.
It's a really bad proposition, because even anything backed by money, I know courts are backed by money, but they're taxpayers' money. But if it was anything but that, I think the whole motive of or how the courts function will totally change. It would be backwards, like you were saying. The motive will be totally incorrect, and finance driven is great for some things, but not for this.
If everybody obeyed the speed limit, if everybody adhered to all the traffic laws, every single person, if every pedestrian, if everybody did everything by the book, the state would lose so much money. And so, that's part of the reason that there's a lot of laws. And this is conspiracy time with Mike here, I guess. And I'm far from a conspiracy theorist. However, that said, one of the reasons that I feel like we have so many laws in the books is because And I'm not talking the big laws. I'm talking the smaller misdemeanors or civil infractions, the down here stuff.
Yeah.
Because our law books, I think, are bottom heavy. They're definitely more heavy on the misdemeanor and civil infraction and statutory sort of, codes, a lot of different code enforcement kind of things than they are up here at the felony level. Even though there's a lot of stuff up here, there's way more down here.
Oh, definitely.
And so why do they really have that stuff? Is it because we really care if somebody has a branch that's 2 inches over an easement? Is it that we really care that somebody, has red bricks instead of blue bricks in zone 7 of, no, does it really matter? No, it's because if we have that there, it's a means for the state to collect the money. The red light cameras and all that stuff. We have all that because it's a means for the state to collect money. Yeah, we can say, hey, no, it's really for safety. It's really to make sure that, this settles disputes. That way, we don't have to worry about tying up civil courts with all this stuff about stuff going over easements. And we have these code enforcements so that we don't have to worry about liability down the road and stuff. And, that's so,
There's two sides to think about it.
Yeah.
And where I'm thinking with that, sorry, Ashley.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was going to say with how Michael's, the easement part, and those type of things, they often have a way to appeal those rulings, take it to a hearing, and you're still having a judge, or not necessarily a judge, but an arbitration.
Yeah. Which
is the same thing. And it's just like, okay.
Well, and you've got your filing fees and you got your, you got all these different fees and all these different things that you have to file just to, and then like, well, okay. So that's where the problem starts to lie, is that you have, the state has to collect the money.
Yep.
That's because we don't get enough. Clearly, we don't get enough money from taxes. We don't get enough money from property tax and grocery tax and sales tax and capital gains tax and payroll tax and property tax. We don't get enough. We don't get enough tax collected. From all of that stuff. We have to make sure that we also have various code enforcements in civil. And I'm not. Listen. I know someone's got, Mike, are you saying that it's okay for people to drive, 85 in a residential neighborhood? I'm not saying
Definitely
that,
not.
but, how many times do we watch court and somebody gets pulled over, they're doing 48 and a 45.
Yep.
And you're like, come on. Really? Like, are we that had to be written down on paper. Someone had to draft up a citation that had to be filed. A clerk, all of this, the process has to be put into place. That person has to come in. A judge is using real minutes on, of the limited time that he is on or she is on this planet to go through somebody that went 48 and a 45. And I get it. If you don't enforce the little laws, how do you enforce the big ones? Save it.
Yeah.
Come on.
I get that. Okay. So on the topic of red light cameras, because I know how they work.
Yeah.
So you go through the light, you get something in the mail days later, and it says you owe this and this because you ran a red light. And if you want to appeal it, you go to court to settle it, right? To appeal it in front of the judge and stuff.
Yep.
But what does it emphasize first? Paying the fine, correct? For running the red light.
Yep.
So that emphasizes what you're saying, Michael, that it's not, if it was such a big deal, they would actually not do that. They would say, oh, you'll have to go to court such and such a day because you ran a red light. And
Right.
instead, they give you a cop out and say, if you pay this, then you don't have to go to court. So
Now, in Arizona, we actually have a law in the books that says that a ticket, a citation like that, it has to be served to you in person. So in essence, red light cameras or speed enforcement cameras that we've had around, if you get sent those tickets, you know what you do with them?
They're
You
just
crumple them
paper
up
at
and you
that
throw them
point.
away.
Interesting.
Because
That's interesting.
now, if they come to try and serve you, better not answer the door, better not get caught outside, because a process server might actually come and serve that ticket on you. But if you get it in the mail, and I'm telling you this, this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not telling you to break the law. However,
Right.
This is not legal advice. We are not
this is not
attorneys.
This is not legal advice, and I'm not an attorney. That said, it is a law that you have to be served in person in Arizona, these types of things. And many people do take those tickets and they throw them away from the cameras, and nothing can happen to them so long as they're not served personally. Now, once you get served personally, you're done. You have to go in and either
Right.
challenge it or pay it.
Yep.
But that is just another way that and because most people will just pay them because they're like, well,
Oh yeah.
right, they want to be done with it.
they want to be done with it, or they think that, well, they got me. They're unaware that they have to serve you personally. So they're like, well, I'll just pay it. So again, this goes back to my point that this is all about, it's really about, the state bringing in the coffers, or putting money in the coffers. And that's really what it's about for rehabilitation too. Sometimes, somebody is such a good prisoner. They're so good at work. They're like, well, we're going to go into executive session for a moment. And then in executive session, this guy's too good a worker. He's working for this guy. We ain't even paying this guy. He's doing like 5 men's worth of labor for us now. We can't let him out.
Yep.
All right. It's my opinion that you have not rehabilitated, and also I need my dry cleaning done. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to deny.
Yep.
And I concur. I also need dry cleaning done. So my vote is also to deny. And my vote is also to deny. So
It sounds ridiculous, but it might be a thing.
denied.
We have to watch these trustees now
Yes.
closely to see if they keep these people in.
But yet you can get them out, let them out, hire them to do that same job on the outside.
Yes.
That way they still technically have their supervision because they're working for the government, but yet they are not housed at the prison. They don't take up the time of the COs and whatnot. So it would just be, I think, easier to do that and better to do that even, because then you're showing them, hey, you're doing we can have you do it out there, or we can have you do it behind bars, basically.
Oh, and
Right.
they still get their tax money
Yep.
as well
They
because
still get
they have to,
everything.
they
They're
have
just
to
giving
start filing income taxes.
the person a chance to do it on the outside
Just
versus
saying.
doing it on the inside.
Everybody wins.
Yep.
Except
You just win
Except for
more for one of them.
for the prisoner.
Oh man.
Except for the inmates. Everybody else wins, though. The state wins, and Mr. Prater wins. They all win.
Yep.
Well, this has been a lively discussion. We've while not necessarily solving, we've certainly suggested some ways that this process could be improved greatly. And I think that's about all you can really hope for here. So, sometimes we don't necessarily solve things, but we sure do try to come up with some ideas. I don't know.
Yep.
We do
three
try
of
to
us,
better the system. Yep.
yeah, if just us laymen here on Sidebar can do that. And Austin is the closest thing we have to a legal person here because, he's actually paralegal. And, I just, Ashley is like accounting and professor, and I am just the weather guy.
And maybe an attorney can see our video and like, I'm going to implement that.
Be like, hey,
Long shot,
maybe
but it could happen.
Maybe these crazy people actually have an idea, and we could run with it. We could improve the system, and then they're brought into a dark room by the cabal, and they're told, "Don't even think about it. This is the system that we have, and this is what brings us the state the money. That same money that pays some of the public defenders, and so don't even think about it. And besides, I need my dry cleaning done, and this guy really does a great job." And that's why we're keeping him in.
Oh my, that's hilarious.
So if you're in the trustee program, be a work, but don't work too hard. Really do it the American way and half-ass it. I think that's there's a solution.
There you go.
All right. That having been said,
as I had a mouthful of water.
Well, timing is everything. So final thoughts on this, or really on anything, because it's Sidebar and we didn't really go, we kept it pretty law tube adjacent tonight. I'm a little disappointed.
We still took a couple sidebars though.
We did, but they were still legal related. And I'm kind of sad. I think Dan's going to be very disappointed in us.
We had to redeem ourselves from Tuesday.
Yes. Well, normally it's my fault, but I suppose since I had to put the host hat on tonight, I was like, well, I better be a little bit. I'll pretend that I'm somewhat responsible.
And actually, the host is away, so being on our best behavior that we're responsible people. So
of course, we are very responsible.
Right, Dan?
We didn't burn down the YouTube page. We're good.
No, we didn't get banned. That's and you know what? That's really all you can ask for here on Sidebar. All right. Well, anyway, some final thoughts, because that's what we do here also. Austin, what do you think?
There are many ways to solve a solution, but I don't think that keeping somebody in jail just because it's better for the prison system is a good idea at all. And that everything should be weighed equally, in my opinion.
All right. I would agree with that. Slave labor, not necessarily always a good thing. Good thing for business.
Hard 100 years of hard labor. We're past that by now.
I sentence you to 20 years hard labor. Yes. To the sweatshop with you.
With the chain ball on the ankle and the pickaxe.
I hereby sentence you to work for Nike. Maybe that's China. That's a sponsor that won't be with us. All right.
Right.
Tonight's show not brought to you by Nike. Ashley, final thoughts.
I think a lot of these people, even though, I understand victims have a point of wanting these people to be kept in, but if that's the only thing that's keeping the people in, for parole boards, I don't think that's the. If they're doing everything else right, I think they should deserve a chance out and to prove themselves they can be part of society. So that's kind of my summary of what we talked about tonight.
Yeah. And I think that's a point that we can all sort of agree with also. So good discussion, everybody. My final thought on it is also, again, similar to this, and that is, we sort of abolished slavery with the 14th Amendment. I don't know why we continue it. I do get, though, and I know someone's going to say, well, Mike, these are people that are in prison and they should have to repay their debts to society, especially if they have restitution. Yeah, I suppose. But that, they're paid what, 20 cents an hour. If they have $5,000 worth of restitution, I'm sorry. It's not real feasible, and I just don't think that that's necessarily right. So,
yep. No.
And also, if we're really, again, if rehabilitation's the deal, then let's get them out and get them actually working and actually making money and actually contributing to society. Because wouldn't that be better for business other than the private prison? But I don't know.
Yep.
So there's lots of ways we could have still gone with this. Yeah. So but hey, we'll certainly have a lot to talk about next time. And that's when we will be back here next for Sidebar, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 8 p.m. East, 5 p.m. Pacific. Now, tomorrow morning, right here on this very channel, same bat time, same bat channel, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern time for TCF Live. Dan will be back in the chair taking care of that. It'll be a Friday, and it's Friday. So it should be, it's Super Friday. And the next Friday is Friday the 13th, which is Super Freaky Friday. So yes,
Monday's going to be a good court day. That following Monday.
Yes.
After Friday the 13th.
Oh, no, I think that's President's Day, though.
I'm staying inside on the Friday
it's a
the
holiday.
13th.
Yep. Well, that Tuesday. Monday's birthday.
Yeah, because the 3-day weekend, there's always a lot. We're going to have a lot of interesting stuff then. So lots to look forward to. We'll see you back here again next Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. East, 5 p.m. Pacific for Sidebar. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. East, 6 a.m. Pacific, half an hour early for channel members for TCF. Until then, thank you, Ashley, Austin. I'm Michael Groff. Good night, everybody. Thank you to everybody in the chat, by the way, for hanging out with us, too. Really do appreciate that. And thank you once again. And good night, everybody.
Good night.